Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the Hachaim. We're in Parshat Miketz, Perek Mem Beis, Pasuk Kaf Aleph. Let's go back a few psukim. Yosef HaTzadik accuses the brothers of being spies. He locks them up, says the pasuk, in jail for 3 days. At the end of the third day, he tells them, "I fear Elokim, es Elokim Yarei," and he releases them. He tells them, "If you're telling me the truth, leave one of your brothers behind as collateral, which is Shimon. Take food, go up to your families in order to give them food, and I want you to bring back your youngest brother. If you do that, I will know that you're telling me the truth, and I will continue to provide you with food." At this point, the pasuk then says in Pasuk Kaf Aleph that the brothers having a discussion amongst themselves, and they say, "Aval Hashemim anachnu, we are guilty. Alachinu, on our brother, asher inu tsaras nafshoy, that we saw the tsar of his nefesh, b'schalnoi aleinu, when he pleaded with us to release him, and we didn't listen to him. Because of that, this tsar came to us." So the Hachaim is going to ask a series of questions. One of them is, when did this conversation happen? If you read the psukim, it seems to be that the order of the chain of events was as follows. Yosef accuses them of being spies, locks them up for 3 days, releases everyone except for Shimon. Then they had this deliberation. The Hachaim says that may not be the case. And the Hachaim is going to go back and forth a little bit. When did this conversation happen? The Hachaim begins as follows. If Hachaim first says the word avol in this pasuk doesn't make sense. Whenever you use the word avol, but, or however, it's usually to defend yourself, right? Yes, this is what happened, but this is the reason why it happened. That doesn't fit in this pasuk, because it seems to be that they're saying that this is what happened, but we're guilty. It doesn't make sense. But we're guilty is not an excuse. Moreover, says the Hachaim, Amitargem Amar Bakushta, that the word avol should be translated as in truth. Like the pasuk says, yeah, in truth we are guilty. The Hachaim says, even that, I don't understand. It could have very simply said, the word avol seems to indicate that they came to some sort of realization that they were not aware of prior. Why did the brothers have to give a whole soliloquy as to what happened? We saw Yosef Bitzar, he was pleading with us, we didn't listen to him. Should have said very simple. In addition, says the Hachaim, the real Aveira was that they sold him. The pasuk doesn't say at all that they sold him. The pasuk doesn't discuss at all that we sold him to the merchants and he ended up somewhere. It seems to be that the brothers didn't even acknowledge the fact that they sold him. So based on these kashas, the Hachaim has a beautiful explanation of what the discussion was happening between the brothers at this point. It's possible that this is what the brothers were saying. They were debating, they were besupuk, if the tsar that they were going through right now, being thrown into jail or being accused of spies, Shimon has to stay behind, now they have to bring down Binyamin. Is it all because that they sold Yosef? V'dachu tamzeh, they rejected this reasoning. Kefi masha kasavti l'malo, what the Hachaim says that he wrote in Perek Lamed Zayin Pasuk Chof, shekfi adin danu la'griga. According to the halacha, they judged Yosef that he should be killed because he was being malshin on them. V'mkein, if that's the case, if he's supposed to be killed, hamechesh asuloi hu adarab midas a chesed. They actually did him a favor by keeping him alive. So it can't be that they were punished because they sold him, because really he should have been killed. And if the reason they're being punished because they caused Yaakov Tsar by losing Yosef, Adarabba, what's been going on now, that Shimon's being locked up, now they have to bring down Binyamin, that's actually going to make Yaakov even more Tsar. It wouldn't make sense that, you know why I'm punishing you? Because you caused Yaakov Tsar. And through the punishment, Yaakov's going to be even more Tsar. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Hashem would do it. The whole reason that they were being punished was because they caused Yaakov Tsar. So now Yaakov's going to have more Tsar? That doesn't make sense. So this is what they were debating. What was the reasoning of this punishment? Whatever possibility they thought of, they seemed to have a logical explanation why that was not the reason. They could not find any Aveiro that happened through the Mechiras Yosef. So they said to themselves, we're making Cheshbon HaNefesh, right? They're trying to go through everything, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, and everything they said. and they were be'emes. They weren't, trying to fool themselves. So they said, why is this happening? Doesn't make any sense. But they said, Aval Ashemim. But yes, we are guilty. They finally came to the conclusion, Aval, yes, we are guilty. Not that we're not guilty because of this and because of that, but on the contrary, the Hachaim says they came to the realization that they are guilty. Why are they guilty? So the pasuk says, Asher inu pirush she'al kol ponim. Even though Yosef was judged to be killed, and they decided not to kill him, even still, hayolahem l'rachem alav. Chaim says they should have had rachmanis on him. The brothers realized that they should have had rachmanis. They didn't have to run to kill him, right? You don't always have to run to kill him, try to find a way out, to try to find an excuse. In Sanhedrin, Bezdin is always trying to find a reason not to kill somebody, and obviously not to sell him. Biros achiem mischanin asakonis nafshay. He was pleading with them that he was living in danger. V'nis achsuru alav, and they became achzorim. They became cruel. That was the punishment. Yosef Atzadik was crying to them, was pleading with them. We saw that he was in tsar, and we just blew him off. And the brother says that's the reason why we're being punished. We're not being punished because we sold him. We did him a favor by selling him. We're not being punished because we caused the act of Tsar. We're being punished because we were achzorium to him. We were not generous in kindness. We did not show him kindness. We did not show him generosity. We were actually cruel to him. And for that level, for who they were, it's meguna. So the Hachaim explains, if you understand this idea, you can learn the pasuk as follows. They were debating amongst themselves why they were guilty. At the end, they came to the conclusion, Aval Hashemim. No, in truth, like the uncle says, we are guilty. Why? Because we saw Yosef Atzadik pleading with us, and we should have shown him kindness, especially on our level. We should have been merciful to him, and we weren't. Oid Yitzal Zer Derech. The Hachaim is going to give another explanation, similar to the first one, but with a slight twist. They saw that they were all in jail. Who is the cause of this? Right? We learned many times, everything Hashem does is midah keneged midah. So they're sitting amongst themselves and saying, okay, we were thrown into jail. Who else did we throw into jail? Oh, we threw Yosef into jail, into the pit. So they all said, oh, it must be because we did this to Yosef. However, when they started thinking about it, they realized there was one problem. They saw a contradiction to this reasoning. Mitzad Ruvain, because of Ruvain, who was also locked up, right? They sat down and said, okay, there are 10 of us thrown into jail, there are 10 of us that were there. Binyamin wasn't there, so it makes sense he's not thrown into jail. Now, we don't know why he's being called down, but right now they're trying to figure out why they're all in jail. So they said, oh, because we threw Yosef into the pit, we were thrown into the pit. The problem is, the brother said, wait a minute, but Reuven wasn't there. Reuven wasn't there when we sold him. On the contrary, Reuven was trying to save him. And therefore they said, what's the reason that we're being punished? Therefore they had to say, no, we really are guilty. If you want to tell us that we're being punished because midah keneged midah, because we sold Yosef, Reuven wasn't there. But we all did see the tsar of Yosef, even Reuven, and he did not save them. So this is very similar to the first teretz, with a slight twist. Here, they were in the jail, and they were trying to figure out what's the midah keneged midah, and they couldn't come up with it until they came out that we should have had mercy, we should have been kind to Yosef, and we weren't. Says Darchaim, he was with them. He was there when they threw him into the pit. When Yosef obviously pleaded with them not to throw into the pit, Reuven was still there. Nobody wants to be thrown into the pit. There was no water, as we know. And Yosef was crying to them in a loud voice, and they did not listen to the cries of his tchina. They ignored him. Reuven was there also. That's why we were there as well. The cholze kishenoma ki devrei elu hoyu keshechnisum b'mishmar. These two terutzim, these two ways to explain that the brothers were deliberating why they were in jail, makes sense only if Pasuk Chaf Aleph, the deliberation amongst the brothers were when they were thrown into prison, which is not the Seder of the Psukim, like we explained in the beginning. So why did the Pasuk seems to be out of order? The Pasuk wanted to keep Yosef's words flowing. He accused them of being spies, he threw them to jail, he released them on this condition. The Torah didn't want to break it up. So the Torah first brought down all of Yosef's shaklavataria, and then it said, in actuality, while they were in prison, this is what was going on. But if you want to tell me that this happened after Yosef released them, right? Like they were packing their bags and they were talking amongst themselves as they were packing their bags, what's going on? Why is this happening? What did we do? Then you have to give another explanation. So now you have to say, what were they doing in jail? Why didn't they make a cheshbon nefesh then? Why up until this point did they not think that this was happening because of Yosef? Maybe because up until this point, says the Hachaim, a third explanation. Now this explanation is based if you say that the brothers were deliberating after they were released from jail, like they were packing their bags and they started traveling. So they said, what's going on over here? So they said, maybe Yosef is throwing us into jail because he has free will. He can do what he wants. There's no real punishment because of anything. Because according to their opinion, according to their understanding, Yosef Atzadik was mechuyev to get killed. So they didn't really think that they were thrown into prison because they did something wrong. They thought that this guy was a bad king, an evil ruler, and he threw us into jail. But when he told them one of your brothers will be locked up, and the brother that he kept behind was Shimon, then they started to say, wait a minute, of all the brothers they picked Shimon? Because right now they didn't know that he knew who Shimon was. Just like they were cruel to his brothers, just like they were cruel to Yosef, he was cruel to them. They started to realize something's going on. This is not a normal method of meting out punishment. But if you're going to release us all. You're holding us one back. You're sort of blackmailing us to come back down. Pick amongst the brothers. Are you going to keep Shimon here and leave Binyamin home? Or are you going to bring Binyamin back in order to release Shimon? You're putting them into a catch-22. And they said, this is evil. This is rishus. Why is Hashem doing such a rishus thing to us? So that caused them to start to think, hey, wait a minute, something's going on. And in addition, as we explained, that Shimon was the one who generated this whole inyan of getting rid of Yosef Atzadik. As the end of the Hachaim says, that once he kept Shimon behind, of all the brothers, he picked the one that was the instigator. They understood from that was like a trigger to them that something else is going on. It's not that Yosef Atzadik, this king, whoever he is, wants to punish us. And therefore the Pasuk says, no, he's not just a guy who's causing us tsar. Aval Ashemem anachnu. The Hachaim says, yes, in reality, it's because we are guilty. And because of this guilt, we are being punished. So it comes out, the Hachaim learns three understandings in the Pasuk. The first two explanations are based on the fact that while they were in jail for 3 days, they were deliberating why they were being punished. And it came out that the reason that they were punished was not because they sold Yosef, but rather because they caused them tremendous tsar. Right? Someone, the tzaddikim on their level, they should have been merciful to him. They should have said, okay, we'll give you one more chance. They should have said, we're going to give you, another opportunity to show that you're really not causing us problems, make a deal with you. And they shouldn't have even thrown him into the pit, according to one pshat. Because he said, you're throwing me into the pit. There's snakes there, there's scorpions there, there's no water, it's 50 feet deep. Who knows what could happen? Please don't throw me in, please don't throw me in. And they basically, ignored him. And for tzaddikim on their level, they shouldn't have ignored him. Even he was worthy of being punished. And even they did him a favor by not killing him, they still should have listened to his pleas. The third teretz is that really, up until this point, they had no inkling that they were being punished. They didn't think at all, because they, according to their understanding, Yosef Atzadik deserved to be killed, and they actually did him a favor. But when Yosef let them go, except for Binyamin, and basically told them you have to choose between Shimon, that I'm keeping in jail, or bringing down Binyamin, they said this is exceedingly wicked. And the fact that of all the brothers that he kept behind, he kept back Shimon, the instigator, that triggered them to say, wait a minute, something more than just this guy being evil is going on. And in truth, the reason that this is all happening is because we're being punished. Now, we're not going to learn the next piece in the next pasuk, but if you learn the next pasuk in pasuk Chav Beis, Ruvain tells them, you see, you did something wrong. I told you not even to touch him, and you did something wrong, and this is why we're here. And we see that the cheshbon and nefesh that they made brought them to the understanding of the great tsar that they brought to Yosef. Now, it's true that even though Yosef was behind the scenes and he was really doing all this, but ultimately Hashem was mesoiviv to them that they should understand to do tshuva under the avera that they did for their level.